Alright, hey YouTube. So, I've been on a little bit of a video making binge here the last couple of days, but wanted to touch on something that I actually made a video about sort of early on in my YouTube career, where it was the idea that life is good. It does get better, but it gets better if you work at it. And so that last clause, the if you work at it part, is I think the important thing that a lot of people, myself included, can sometimes overlook. Where, like, it's not necessarily that you think things are going to come easy or things are going to be handed to you, but it's that you forget that, work is hard, work is difficult, work is challenging, but that's why you get rewarded for it. And, like, it's sort of something where I've been caught in this rut for the last several months now. And first I thought it was just like a post-op, post-surgery kind of, post-op depression thing. And maybe it is like my T levels are low and I need a little bit shot of testosterone or something like that. But even if that's the case, like, I still have to get my ass into the doctor's office, get the blood work done, and see if that's the case or not. Like, you have to do at least a little bit of work rather than just like sit around speculate as to, well, I've been really down lately and I'm not sure why, but well, okay, if I've been down, then I need to start really addressing that and being not necessarily critical, because I think constructive is probably better, but I have to start looking at, myself, my actions, and sort of being honest about how much of this is me being frustrated and how much of that frustration could be resolved by me putting in some effort somewhere. And so I think this all kind of hit home and got tied together for me over the past couple of days. But it sort of kind of capped itself off with a conversation I had with my manager about my work at work, basically, where I talked about a lot of frustration I had with a lot of different things that have been sort of going on over the past few months. And at the end, she said, like, okay, well, you've kind of thoroughly depressed me. She was joking, but she asked the question, like, well, what do you want me to do about this? And I sort of sat there in silence and didn't have a response for her. And she said, well, you don't have to answer me right now or necessarily at all. And so when I went home and I was eating my pint of Ben & Jerry's shame, it occurred to me that my problem with work is that the great work I had been doing and up until all the change in the organization had sort of been put to the side. And, I was maybe starting to convince myself that the new management, the new leadership, the new way of thinking meant that all that work was for nothing and was going to get thrown out. Which obviously is kind of a demoralizing thing if you're sort of a, semi-overachiever type of person like myself. But then it occurred to me, and through that conversation with my manager as well, that, maybe part of the issue is that you need to go back and do rework. If there's new management, now you have to sell them on the idea. You have to get them to buy into it. And if your idea really is as great as you think it is, then it shouldn't be that difficult, but you still have to put in sort of that groundwork. Or, like I was having a conversation at lunch today with a coworker, and we're talking about how we're both feeling a little bit lazy about just sort of, not necessarily what we're doing with our lives, but just sort of certain aspects of our lives. And it's like, well, we need to get up off of the ground and start doing shit. Like, if she wants to work out more, like, she's got to figure out how to make that happen. And if I want to get out of this rut that I've been in, I need to figure out no, it's not even that I need to figure it out because we were having that conversation. It's like, well, we both know what we need to do. Like, she even knows the actual exercises that she should be doing, and I know what I need to be doing to get myself out of the rut. It's just that change is hard. Personal change is difficult, and the only way it gets better is if you work to make it better. And I mean, obviously, you can go get help from other people. Talking about it definitely helps, even if it's just to vent, and they don't necessarily have those suggestions. But it's like, at the end of the day, if I want work to be different, if I want my post-transition or post-op life to be different, like, I have to put in that work. And I think up until now, I've been sort of expecting things to go back to the way they were. And it's like, no, it's really not necessarily starting over from nothing, but I've got to go back and rebuild those habits that made me into a 30-mile, 35-mile per week runner. I need to go back and start writing again so that I can build on those 40,000 words that I did before. I need to rebuild those habits, or basically build new habits, and that takes work, that takes effort, that takes commitment, and I know how to do all of those things. It's actually putting in the effort to put them together. It's keeping focus on what I need to do, and then making sure that I actually go and do it. And so I don't know if that's accountability to myself or if somebody else needs to be holding me accountable. But it's something that needs to get done. And hopefully this was at all useful for people. It was useful for me, though.